Bubsy 3D, what could possibly go wrong with that? The answer apparently is everything, but in this video game court, it's innocent until proven guilty. Court is now in session for a heavily requested episode of Innocent Until Proven Guilty. Today's case takes us into the depths of the 90s animal mascot trend to bring justice to the most notorious entry from the short-lived fad, Bubsy 3D. The Bobcat gets a lot of hate from the gaming community, but I've always been fond of him. I defended the original 16-bit title in the newest Cygnus Destroyer video, but will I be able to do the same for his leap into the third dimension? Let's find out. Bubsy is 3D in Forbidden Planet, more commonly referred to as Bubsy 3D, was developed by Eidetic for a Halloween 1996 release. Given the supposed horrors contained within this disc, many would say that this was an appropriate date for Accolade's abomination to be unleashed, but I digress. The story of Bubsy 3D is simple and follows the events of Claw's encounters of the furred kind, involving the Woolies capturing the protagonist so that they can finish their goal of seizing the Earth's supply of wool. Unfortunately for them, a technical snafu resulted in their nemesis being freed and running amok on their home turf.
Until further notice, this meeting is... I knew I should have taken that left turn at Uranus! Was it something I said? What could possibly go wrong?
The intro cutscene establishes the furry dude with Toot as a menace, but all he's trying to do is hitch a return ride to our beautiful blue dome. In order to accomplish that, he has to build a rocket ship, and the necessary parts are scattered across the 16 stages. Waiting at the ready to stop the Bobcat's mission are his mortal enemies Zots and Dogfish, among other formidable foes that will make mincemeat of our hero. Luckily, there are power-ups and weapons located in each level that allow him to retaliate with extreme force. The first items that appear upon starting a session are the atoms.
So, you wanna be a video game star? For starters, grab all the items you see. There's plenty of them in each level. And if you get enough of them, you'll be in for some surprises.
Collecting atoms increases the score and gradually restores the health bar, but their best use is performed via the square button. Holding square will charge the atom that Bubsy is closest to, and releasing the button will send it flying towards the intended target. These projectiles are unlimited as long as there are atoms nearby, and they're helpful for dealing with a threat in the distance, but remember to carefully aim your shots or the misfires will ricochet right back in our face. When the ammo supply is exhausted, Bubsy's default attack is the standard stomp, which eradicates most enemies in a single bound, but he can also elude his captors or barrel through them with the temporary invisibility and invincibility icons. The latter of the two is incredibly satisfying to pick up, but the most important items are of course the rocket pieces. The rockets are essential to the plot for enacting the escape plan, and the amount acquired determines which of the three possible conclusions are unlocked. Since I didn't want the bad ending dropped on me like coal in a stocking, I went out of my way to hunt for the rockets, and, well, the outcome wasn't pretty. I wasted so much time in attempting to access the ridiculously placed spots with minimal rewards to show for it that I ultimately said screw it and headed for the exit. My futile efforts to complete this fetch quest may have failed in utter misery, but it revealed the biggest adversary in Bubsy 3D, the controls. Eidetic produced this PS1 oddity before the DualShock brought analog functionality to the console, and all of the movements are controlled by the D-pad as a result. This may not have been a problem for the majority of its platformer peers, but the dependence on the D-pad all but crippled the Bobcat's 32-bit adventure. The overall slippery feel and excess momentum caused many accidental deaths, while the awkward camera was barely adjustable and made me want to rip out my hair in rage. Who the hell thought it was a good idea for the camera to automatically flip above the character mid-jump? That's disorienting and turns what should be a mundane task into a frustrating chore. I suppose I should give some leeway since Eidetic was working in unexplored territory and their programming department was comprised of only 5 people, but this is inexcusable. Thankfully, there are infinite continues, or else I would have quit long before I was able to acclimate to these horrible controls. Even with that save safety net, my patience was running thin as I kept being bombarded by the ravenous AI and crappy camera. As I progressed further into the madness that is Bubsy 3D, the difficulty began to escalate. The underwater areas were a slight breath of fresh air, but they too were accompanied with their share of quirks, such as a dash attack that eats up oxygen, while the nerd and woolly mammoth boss battles are so confusing that they required a blurb in the manual's hint section to defeat. With those two eliminated, my hopes were high that I'd be able to send Accolade's misfit mascot back home when I'd started to get somewhat used to the clunky controls. I actually even grew to appreciate the puzzle elements and the new floating mechanic incorporated into the mix, but that didn't keep me from reaching my boiling point and throwing in the towel. I tried, guys. I really did. I've beaten Superman 64, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and countless other NES hard titles, but this is in a different league. The difficulty in this stems more from poor design choices rather than actual challenge, and I just couldn't take anymore after the 4th straight night of capturing footage. Anyway, I experienced the majority of what Bubsy 3D has to offer, and I observed that it's littered with flaws, but does that mean there are no redeeming factors to be found? Let's find out in the breakdown! Bubsy 3D has earned a reputation as being one of the worst games of all time, and this is one of those rare occasions on IUPG where the critics are 100% right. Claw's Encounters of the Third Kind was a flawed but enjoyable side-scroller, proving that Accolade knew what it takes to create a quality title, but the company must have developed collective amnesia in the ensuing years because this is the antithesis of quality. The graphics are subpar, the voice acting is annoying, and the controls are awful. Bubsy 3D is an insult to my favorite genre, and it deserves to be punished for its crimes. What could possibly go wrong? Defending Bubsy 3D is a true Herculean feat that might be beyond my abilities, but I'm gonna try. Accolade and Eidetic certainly dropped the ball, and their collaboration concluded in disaster, but the Bobcats' third-dimensional outing isn't completely without redemption. The punny sense of humor from the original remains intact, and the eccentric music does a good job of matching the zany tone. The death animations and cutscenes cracked me up, and I appreciated the atom system and the rest of the added elements to the mechanics. It may be lacking tight controls, and it will definitely grate on your nerves sooner or later, but Bubsy 3D isn't a total mess. In the case of Bubsy 3D, I rule that the verdict is guilty! As much as I hate to say it, Bubsy 3D just might be the worst game I've ever played. Yes, even worse than Action 52. Active Enterprise's infamous multi-cart may be less polished than Eidetic's debut effort, but at least it's entertaining in how broken it is. There was no fun to be found in Bubsy 3D for me, only disappointment. And I'd strongly suggest staying far away from it to preserve your sanity. Anyway, now that I've wrapped up this long overdue episode, I have a Cygnus Destroyer review to work on. Be sure to come back for that, but until then, court is now adjourned! Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, click any of the boxes on the screen right now and you'll be able to watch a few more of my videos. And if you haven't already, be sure to click that red box right there in the corner and that'll subscribe to the channel and you'll be able to keep up to date with all of my current content. Thanks again, everyone.